welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tuning into something, well, truly mind-bending. This secret handshake, between a really fascinating number sequence, a ratio that pops up everywhere in nature, and the music we love.
Ah, Fibonacci and the golden ratio.
Exactly. We're plunging right into the Fibonacci sequence and the golden ratio, and honestly, I think you'll start hearing echoes of them everywhere. From classical giants right through to today's hits.
That's absolutely right. We've been looking at some really incredible sources exploring how this golden ratio and the Fibonacci sequence have been woven almost into music across centuries in different styles.
Yeah.
So our mission today for this deep dive is really to pull out the most surprising, the most illuminating examples of how these, mathematical ideas have actually shaped the music.
Shaping the rhythm, the melodies.
Exactly. Rhythm, melody, harmony, chords, even lyrics sometimes. Consider this your express ticket to understanding this hidden connection, this link between math and music.
Okay, let's unpack this then, starting maybe way back with the classical composers. The ones who really lay the groundwork.
Sounds good.
One name that just kept coming up in our sources was Bela Bartok. He seems to have had, a real thing for numbers.
Oh, absolutely. Bartok wasn't just a composer. He was actually trained in mathematics, too. And he was known for really studying natural forms.
Like spirals and seashells or pine cones.
Precisely. Classic Fibonacci patterns. And then later, I think it was in the 1950s, this theorist, Erno Lendvai, really pushed the idea that Bartok, and maybe others too, were deliberately using these proportions, building them right into the architecture of their music.
Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting for me. Our sources point again and again to Bartok's music for strings, percussion, and celesta from 1936.
A fantastic piece.
And that first movement, it's often held up as the example of Fibonacci in action. What's going on there?
Well, what's truly fascinating is just the design, the whole structure of that opening movement. It unfolds over exactly 89 bars.
Which is a Fibonacci number.
Right. 89 is in the sequence. Then the movement builds to its main climax, the loudest, most intense point.
Yeah.
Right at bar 55. Another Fibonacci number.
Okay, wow.
And even the very first section, the exposition, 21 bars.
Also Fibonacci.
Also Fibonacci. It just feels, it feels a bit too neat to be pure coincidence,
It really does. That's uncanny. But hang on, it gets even more specific than just the bar counts, doesn't it? There's something about an actual Fibonacci rhythm.
Yes. In the finale of the same piece, Bartok literally writes out this rhythmic pattern for the xylophone, and the beats, the number of beats in each phrase, follow the sequence.
Right, yeah.
1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8.
No way.
Yes. And then it plays it backwards.
Yeah.
5, 3, 2, 1, 1. It's incredibly clear, almost like a diagram put into music.
That's amazing. Okay, moving on from Bartok, though he's clearly key here, our sources also mention Claude Debussy.
Ah, Debussy. Yes.
His piano pieces, images, especially left on the low reflections, the water and mouvement, they're supposed to connect to the golden ratio somehow in their structure.
Yeah, the analysis suggests that in those pieces, the main high point, right, where the music feels most intense or climactic, it happens at a point that's remarkably close to the golden ratio division of the total length. So you take the total number of bars, divide by phi, about 1.618, and bam, that's pretty much where the dynamic peak lands.
Suggesting maybe an intuitive feel for that proportion. Or maybe deliberate.
It could be either, right. It certainly suggests a strong sense of proportion, whether conscious or not.
And there was another Debussy piece mentioned too, Hommage à Rameau.
That's right. The music scholar Roy Howitt, he actually described that piece as being, and I quote, built very clearly on Fibonacci numbers.
Oh, clearly on them.
Yeah. Now, the sources didn't break down every single structural point for us, but that statement itself strongly indicates, conscious use of the sequence and how he put it together.
Okay, let's bring Mozart into this.
Yeah.
It feels almost strange thinking about these math concepts in music that feels so natural and flowing.
I know what you mean, but yeah.
But the sources highlight his piano sonata in C major, K2 7-9, the first one.
Indeed. So in the first movement of that sonata, the opening bit, the exposition, runs for 38 bars.
Okay.
Then the sections that follow it, the development and the recap together, they total 62 bars.
Right. 38 and 62.
Now, if you calculate the ratio, 62 divided by 38, you get about 1.63.
Whoa. That is really close to the golden ratio, 1.618.
Strikingly close, isn't it? So the main structural blocks of the movement seem to be divided right around that golden proportion.
That's incredible. And it sounds like this wasn't just a Mozart one-off either.
Not at all. Music analysts have apparently found similar golden ratio proportions dividing up the big sections in sonatas by other classical guys too. Beethoven, for instance.
Beethoven too.
Yeah, and even Bartók and Debussy again, when they use that sonata form structure, it kind of hints that maybe there was this underlying principle for organizing musical ideas, creating balance, that tapped into this ratio.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about rhythm and the overall shape, the form of these classical pieces. What about melody itself? Did composers actually craft their tunes note by note using Fibonacci?
Yeah.
One note, then two notes up, then three?
That's a really great question. And honestly, the evidence for Fibonacci directly shaping individual melodic lines in classical music is, well, it's pretty thin.
Really?
Yeah, as we've seen, the focus really seems to be more on the big picture, the structure, the timing, even that Bartók xylophone thing we mentioned.
The 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8.
It's a rhythm, right? A pattern of durations, how long the notes last. It's not really dictating the pitches, the up and down movement of a melody according to the sequence.
So the framework might have this mathy underpinning, but the actual tunes flying on top weren't necessarily following a strict 1, 1, 2, 3 step pattern.
Precisely. Classical composers, as far as we know, they just didn't leave notes saying, I built this theme using the Fibonacci sequence step by step. We don't really find famous classical melodies that strictly follow those numbers in their contours.
Gotcha. Okay, let's pivot to harmony then, because it seems like even the absolute basics of Western harmony might have a Fibonacci connection baked in.
Oh, this is where it gets really fundamental. Think about the scale we use, the diatonic scale, the basis for almost everything.
Right.
If you take a full octave, say C to C on a piano, you have 13 unique semitones, half steps, including the black keys.
13, okay.
Within that octave, the standard major or minor scale, the diatonic scale, uses 8 of those notes. Think of the white keys.
8 notes out of 13 total.
Exactly. 8 and 13, both Fibonacci numbers. And the ratio, 8 divided by 13, is about 0.615, which is super close to the inverse of the golden ratio, 1 divided by 1.618.
Wow. Okay, that's deep. And there's more, right? Something about an important note in the scale.
Yes. The dominant note, the fifth note of the scale G in the key of C, for example. Hugely important in harmony.
The fifth note? Which is also a Fibonacci number.
Right, and it's also the 8th semitone up from the starting note, the root.
5 and 8 again.
5 and 8 again. So basically the very framework of Western harmony, using 8 notes out of 13, building chords on the first, third, and fifth scale degrees, it just inherently contains these Fibonacci numbers. It's sort of built in.
And just like with the overall form, the timing of the big harmonic moment seems to line up with the golden ratio too.
Exactly. In those sonata form movements, those points where the harmony feels most intense or maybe resolves strongly, they often happen at points in the piece's timeline that correspond really closely to golden ratio proportions.
Like in that Mozart sonata example.
Yep. We saw it with the structural divisions there, and analysts have noted similar timing for key harmonic events in Beethoven, Debussy, Schubert. It really suggests a link between the timing, the harmonic journey, and this golden proportion.
Okay, what about the chords themselves, the actual stacks of notes? Any Fibonacci there?
Yes, definitely. Even the most basic chord, like a major triad, let's take C major, C, E, G. Those are the first, third, and fifth notes of the C major scale. 1, 3, 5. All numbers that appear early in the Fibonacci sequence.
Right. 1, 1, 2, 3, 5.
Exactly. And then think about how harmony moves in classical music. Very often it goes from the tonic chord, built on note 1.
Yeah, the home base.
To the dominant chord, built on note 5, and then maybe resolves back, often involving the octave, which relates to 8 semitones, or the 8th note. So you get this kind of fundamental movement, 1 to 5, maybe involving 8, that reflects steps within the sequence.
So even a super common IVI progression has these hidden Fibonacci steps.
In a way, yeah, the scale degrees involved line up. And going back to that Mozart sonata again.
The C major one.
That structural split we talked about, the 62.38 ratio near the golden mean, it often lines up with important harmonic moments like a key change or maybe the big return to the home key in the recapitulation.
Suggesting the harmonic plan and the overall golden ratio structure are connected.
It certainly suggests that. Musicologists have even pointed out composers like Bartók sometimes seem to place really important key centers, tonal shifts within a movement right at those golden ratio points in the timeline.
This is all pretty mind-blowing for classical music.